As a 400 level student, I have been involved in affairs with one of my lecturers since my 200 level. It initially started with me needing academic help because I was struggling with my grades, but instead he told me the only way to pass his course was to sleep with him. Out of desperation, I agreed, knowing it was wrong. Since then, the affair has been going on, and I have maintained good grades. Now I feel trapped and conflicted about continuing the affair for good grades, but I'm unsure how to end it without jeopardizing my future.
The story is one of the stories we collected during the AWDF funded project, which seeks to address sexual harassment in tertiary institutions within Nigeria. Welcome to Rights and Realities episode today. My name is Bernard Utu, and with me I have
Sandra Jonathan.
Oluwatosin Alagbe.
Alright. Sexual harassment is a pervasive issue that has lingered for long, and it disproportionately affects women and girls. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Sex for Grades campaign that trended sometime last year or year before last, but these issues have lingered on for too long, and while people have come out to the campaign sexual harassment, it still goes on, and now it is even beginning to creep into workspaces. But for today, we're looking at it in the tertiary institutions in our universities. Sandra, what do you think sexual harassment is? What's sexual harassment to you?
Okay, to me, sexual harassment is an unwelcomed and inappropriate behavior towards anyone.
Okay. Oh, because anything to add?
No, it's just that, just to reemphasize that it happens to anyone, boy or girl.
Sure. So now when you say an unwanted, that was the word, right?
Yes.
Unwanted, unwanted what?
Behavior or unwelcomed behavior.
So now, for instance, now, except on you, is that sexual harassment? I'm just asking.
Okay, so that is not sexual harassment. Inappropriate behavior, unwanted and unwelcome behavior. So you might step on me and that's a mistake. You didn't do it deliberately.
Yeah.
So for example, when I mean unwelcome or inappropriate behavior, that might mean you grouping me.
Okay.
You even making silly comments about my body, or you have a Coca-Cola shape, and it makes me feel some kind of way. Some people might take that as a compliment, but for another person, because it makes me feel some kind of way, it now makes me feel like, why is this person talking about my body like that? Makes me feel insecure about my body. I begin to have doubts. I begin to feel some kind of way. That's sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Because you're sexualizing my body in a way that I don't find appealing.
So she said something around sexualizing one's body. Are there other forms of sexual harassment you might want to touch more light on or something?
So there's the online sexual harassment. A lot of people think that sexual harassment can happen online, but even comments on posts you make also pass as unwanted. So this is not necessarily unwanted touches, but unwanted comments about some posts you make, which you might not be comfortable with.
Yeah.
And once you've informed or told whomever, I don't like this, and they persistently carry out that activity or keep posting that could also count as online sexual harassment.
Yeah, so I think, going by what you said, a popular Nollywood actress, I think as at this morning, came out to complain that people that come to drop comments on people's posts like, your husband is fine, is he single? Do you think something like that might constitute sexual harassment? You know, where maybe you post a picture with your partner and someone comes under the comment and is like, this your partner is very fine, is he single? Do you think it's from a place of just cruise? Because, I mean, most people on the comment section were saying, that she was being too serious about it. Do you think that's like a form of sexual harassment?
Not necessarily, in my opinion, not necessarily sexual harassment, but I think it's inappropriate. It's not right to make such kind of comments, even in the under the guise of cruise. I think that's inappropriate. It's not necessarily sexual harassment, but it's inappropriate.
I think people hide under the disguise of cruise and I was just playing with you when they begin to act inappropriately towards you, and you begin to pick offense. Yes, they begin to, oh, sorry, it's cruise. Can't somebody play with you? Don't play with me, please.
Just also piggyback off that, we said that as long as the poster or whomever doesn't like it, then it is harassment. So now that I'm thinking about it again, if the poster maybe shares with his or her spouse, oh, they say this about you, I don't like it. If the person feels that they've been harassed sexually, then it could also count.
It makes sense. So now, I mean, the conversation today, we're looking at it as per sexual harassment in tertiary institutions. And I'm sure before we even decided that, we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of institutions, tertiary institutions, we needed to have identified a problem. So what exactly are these problems the students seem to be facing? What would you say are like the challenges, or how would you say sexual harassment impacts students in the tertiary institutions? Is there something, anybody?
So, of course, sexual harassment affects their performance in school.
Yeah.
It also affects their confidence, their person, their mental health. It also contributes to the rate of dropouts, especially for girls.
Yeah.
So especially if they've tried to address it, they've reported the matter, reported the case, and nothing seems to be done. Some girl or some boy could decide, okay, my problem has not been fixed. I don't want to do this again.
It's not safe for me.
I don't want to be in this school again. Yeah. So yeah, there are various forms, and those are the three that come to mind right now, really. And I don't know if Sandra has any.
Just to add to what Tosin has said, it also affects their safety because they feel they are no longer safe here. And if you're not safe in an environment, whatever that environment is meant to give you, you will definitely not get it at the end of the day. So it definitely leads to a lot of things, like she mentioned, the dropouts, them not even attending classes or not even performing at all in terms of their academics. And also, it's not just, it affects their mental state also, because it's something that's not just, it's something they have to deal with up there. Because she mentioned their self-confidence, their self-esteem. You begin to doubt yourself, or you begin to see yourself in another light, especially if you're not conforming to what the perpetrator is trying to get you to conform to, and you're not accepting that. You begin to doubt yourself. You begin to see yourself in a different light. And it's very common from the conversations we've had with the students in schools, and it's very common for the schools that we've been to. It's very common in terms of their relationship with students, their fellow students, with staff, both academic and non-academic staff, and funny enough, with even relatives or staff who are, or persons who have businesses around campus, who are not registered as staff of this university.
So is it not possible that these impacts could translate out of school? They could like take it home, like it now begins to affect their overall.
Definitely, because it's not, their lives are not on school. If most of the parts, for now, they live most of their lives in school. For students who are on campus, so imagine for students who are not on campus, you need to come in, go back, come in. It will definitely affect them. Even for students who are on campus also, it will definitely affect how they interact with others beyond the school space.
Sure. So, so far, would you say Nigeria has any policy regarding sexual harassment that maybe decries it, especially to support people in school, to support women and girls in school? Is there any known policy around it?
So there's the Violence Against the VAP Act, which largely addresses or aims to address sexual harassment and GBV and the likes in Nigeria. But it's not targeted, unless I've missed any, but I don't think it's not directly targeted at tertiary institutions. So what is now required is maybe each school having their own sexual harassment policy. What we're hoping is that even the NUC, or the body that overseas universities in Nigeria, makes it a mandatory, one of the mandatory documents that schools should have, and such that when new students resume, it's one of the, for lack of better words, onboarding documents used for students, and they have this learning sessions or awareness sessions regularly in schools. Thankfully, we've been able to support 2 schools to create these policies, and some other organizations have also supported, are in the process of supporting institutions to have sexual harassment policies in their institutions.
Okay, fair enough. So while we talk about policies, let's also look at it from the perspective of, maybe some people would say political will. Let's also look at it from the perspective of school will. I mean, there are situations, or there have been situations where people come out to complain that, something happened in my school and they're trying to shut us up from saying it. They're trying to shut us up from. So what are those things? So now I understand there is the AWDF project. Is there like something you'd like to tell us? What is this AWDF project we've referenced? And then I know we've collected the story. What is it really, really about, and how? I mean, just two more.
Okay, so just to also add to Tosin's comments around policies, which is very key, and that's one of the major things that we're doing on the AWDF project. Apart from that, there's also the prohibition against sexual harassment in tertiary institution. There has been a policy or a bill that has it was stepped down at some time, but right now I think it has been reinstated last year. So we're working with other organizations in the space to see how we can push for the passage of the bill, which is very key. But beyond that, beyond waiting for that, she mentioned that organizations, even EVA, have been doing great works at secondary school, just universities, just trying to see how they can get their own policies. And on the AWDF project, the project is basically trying to promote the rights of AGYW, that's adolescent girls and young women, to a safe learning environment. And the presence of sexual harassment in tertiary institution makes the environment not safe for students in general to even thrive there. So on the project, we've tried to create awareness among students and also among staff. When I say staff, I mean non-academic, academic staff also, because like we mentioned, sexual harassment exists within and even outside campus, can be perpetrated by anybody. But as long as you're within the university premises, you're part of the university body. That's how we view it. So apart from the awareness creation, we collected stories also, because in advocacy campaigns, it is key that you have evidence to back up your advocacy with. And we're advocating for the schools to develop a policy that protects not just the students, but also the staff. So we've used those stories that we collected to hold exhibitions where we have both students and management at these exhibitions for them to see the reality of what's happening on campus. And that's where one of the stories that we've read was coming from. Apart from that, we engaged the consultants to develop a policy. And we didn't just do this on our own as Education as Vaccine, but we worked with the gender centers of these universities to see how we can come together and for them to also own the process, because they are departments who are in charge of this kind of conversations and issues when it arises, where the students going to, who is there for the students, or even the staff when such things happen. And we've been able to develop the policy, and the policies are not the same, context differs. So each each university had their own policy, and for Benue, we're still pushing for the passage. It has gone through the different stages. Even their legal units have vetted it. There were some corrections that they needed to do, which they've done. For Fulafia, we're currently at the management level. The management are trying to review the document before it's being passed. And after development, we didn't just, the consultant did just develop and we're giving it to them just like that. We had a review with both students and staff, went through it. Is this the reality of what's happening on campus? Does this serve you? Would this document really serve you? Like Tosin said, it has to be a key document that's onboarding for students and also for staff. It is part of your Bible, like a handbook that's when anything happens to you, you're looking at it, it's here, you go and you make complaints and reports. And we also try to strengthen the capacity of staff. In as much as we're trying to prevent it from happening, we're also trying to strengthen their capacity in cases where it happens, how to respond to these issues.
Speaking of how to respond, I mean, there is always the person who, I mean, if you listen to Honorable Ahmed on the Ototo show, you'd hear how sometimes people bring cases and then they don't follow through, maybe because they feel like it would indict them or something. What would you like say are like the challenges towards addressing sexual harassment?
So there's fear, of course.
Okay.
So the victim, because there's a lot of victim blaming that happens.
Sure.
Yeah. So in the first place, I think that there's fear. You're afraid that they will not believe you. And they're questioning you or they're blaming you.
All right.
Or should you have won this? Or should you have gone into his or her office? Or should you have said this? Do you get, there's victim blaming. That's one of the things. There's also protection. I think it also ties into fear because you report and you're not protected. You're witch hunted. So you're not even thinking about, okay, you're witch hunted. Your lecturers, your friends, or even staffers don't want to associate with you, don't want to support you. So there's that. There's also, in my mind, those are the main reasons. And I think that what can be done to help victims is to have secure, anonymous ways for victims to report. And when those reports are gotten, the school authorities or whomever carries it on to the very end. Maybe by the time they do 5, 10 of them, they might not even need, they might not need the secure platforms. Why? Because victims are protected. You know that, oh, this person reported and they saw it to the very end, logical conclusion. And so I can also report, there might be no need for, again, context matters and situation matters, but there should be a way to protect victims so that they can report and then they're not witch hunted.
So just to add, your suggestion as to maybe creating safe platforms brings to mind Sevicom. There used to be a time they had Sevicom boxes. I don't know, does this still happen? Because I mean, I've not seen it in a long while. What happened to that? So
it happens. There are departments of
I know.
of Sevicom in schools, but again, is it functional?
Sure.
That's where the question should be. Is it there? Yes. Is it functional? Who knows? We can't say. So that's where we have the gender studies department, and they've proven effective in terms of addressing these issues and in terms of being the key point of contact in these issues, and not to also leave the securities aside. Because for Fulafia, I think during our conversation in terms of the conversation with dialogues with staff, Chief Security was there, and it was a beautiful conversation because he had so many experiences of these cases. And he always says that they are like the first point of contact.
Yeah. Also to mention that a set of non-profits developed a whistleblowing platform that students can anonymously report cases of sexual harassment. I don't recall the name right now.
Makes sense. But just to piggyback on this thing you just said now, right? The platform they created, I mean, if you go to certain, take for instance, Gariki Market in Abuja, right? And maybe a tailor doesn't deliver your clothes on time, you can't bring in an external police there. The market, they have a police there, so you have to. Now, how would this external platform be able to drive accountability in an institution? Because I mean, we've seen situations happen whereby institutions will come out and tell you this is an internal issue. How effective can this platform be in such situations? How do they? Any idea?
The platform is not working on its own. The platform doesn't just exist on its own. The platform works hand in hand with the institutions. So from my experience, a report is filed on the platform and the report is taken to the institution. This is what has happened. This is the report. We're not telling you the victim, but this is who the victim says harassed them or attacked them. And so we work with the school structure to resolve the report. We're not bringing someone from, for example, Lagos to address something that happened in Benue State. So we're going to use Benue. We're going to use the security platform within the university. And if the university chooses to take it outside of the university, their security. So it's hand in hand with the university system.
It's fine. So we've had organizations, we've had platforms. So now, as individuals, I mean, there was something you said that really like struck me. The part about discrimination and how it makes people shy away. What do we think people can do to? What are the actions people can take to curb sexual harassment? And I mean, as children, first things first. You know the way in Nigeria, not just in Nigeria, the African mentality, the parents would typically not talk about sex. Some people would not call sex for what sex is, even as adults. We try to come up with coy words. So now, some people would not know that something is maybe going against their rights because honestly, we never even knew it was a type of right. How do you think we can take action towards curbing sexual harassment in the institutions? Yeah, especially tertiary institutions.
So I think in our conversations we've been answering it. We'll now give you the problem, answer it. Give you
I
the
mean-
problem, answer it. So after Tosin was speaking about sexual harassment, where they blame you, I just remembered something that happened in one of the institutions. I'm not going to call the institution name.
Okay.
While we're having dialogues with the staff, somebody actually stood up to share his experience and said that this girl, she deliberately wore big earrings and red lipstick to my office to seduce me.
Wow.
I knew it. When I knew it. And I told, get out. What are you looking for here? From where to where?
I can
0
imagine.
to 100.
So that is just it. For him, it's the earrings and the lipsticks
True.
but that is her just dressing. So you see, beyond even the clothing, the accessories now are issues.
And I mean, what is bad for you might be good for a majority of
No, but really, earrings, lipstick. Okay, that aside, you said what can be done.
Yeah.
So I think we've answered it, but I'll still state it that it's just putting structures in place.
Yeah.
Structures that work. It's not just enough to say
We have
there are structures, but are they effective? Structures that work. Structures that are accountable to both the students and the staff. Because anytime we're having this conversation, they make it look like it's just the students we're looking after, but it's for everybody. It's for everybody. And we also need people to be aware that this is what sexual harassment is. People are being harassed and they just see it as, no, Hannah, let's just leave it. But they don't know that that's an issue. It's something that you can report. As long as it makes you feel this way, it's affecting your studies. It's affecting your mental state. It's affecting how you associate with others too. It's something you can report so that others don't have to face that.
I get you. So for me, I think another thing would be that from the homes, we shouldn't really shy away from sexual conversations with young people, because it's one thing to know your body, it's one thing to know your rights, and then it's another thing to know your autonomy as an individual, as a person. So instead of telling my child, oh, don't sit on uncle's laps, I should tell my child exactly why she shouldn't sit on uncle's laps and the things that uncle shouldn't do to her. So I think we should not just look at it from, oh, okay, it is when they've touched you here. We should also be able to look at it from the perspective of, okay, this is what happens when you do this. We should begin to also talk to children, young people, about these things so that they know that when this is,
Yeah, I also think that in addition to what Sandra said, and also what you said, Bernadette, we should also teach consent.
Very important.
Because teach consent, because a lot of let's say perpetrators or victims, a lot of people don't understand what consent means, and so because I've lost my train of thought.
no, we get you. I get you.
Consent should be
I
taught.
agree.
I just lost
I
my
agree.
train of
In the
thought.
absence of consent, sexual harassment thrives.
Yeah.
Because I feel that you are my friend, so it's okay. I can touch you. I can do that.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it, and you're like, "Oh, how dare you?" And I'm like, "Am I not your friend?" Doesn't
some
make
people don't have
sense.
to take rejection.
Yeah.
So consent.
Consent is
should-
key.
Yeah,
Thank you,
consent
Tosin,
is
for
key.
that.
Yeah.
Consent is very key.
All right. Any last words?
Last words for me is sexual harassment in school is also a function of power play. And so staffers should understand that they hold, because they hold a lot of power, a lot of responsibility is on them. And so they should not misuse that power. And those are the last words.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
So for me, Safe Campus would definitely produce, how will I put it now? Would definitely produce students who are reaching their potentials and have reached their potentials.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, everyone, you've heard it. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode of Rights and Realities. We do hope to see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.